The novel of It was released in 1986 by Stephen King and revolves around a creature from beyond time and space that terrorizes a small community in Maine, Stevie King's favorite setting, where it uses its shape-shifting abilities in order to distill fear in children before devouring them, so that it can take a nice long nap for 30-ish years. I am going to be saying it a lot throughout this review, so let's make it fun and add this little count here so that we can keep track. Hopefully that doesn't get too old too fast. The TV miniseries It first aired in 1990 and was split over 2 airings and was pretty damn successful for the people over at ABC.
Stephen King's It, starting tomorrow.
Getting nearly 30 million views over the 2 nights it aired originally. It was so successful that it was also reported as being the most VCR recorded airing of that November in 1990. So, although 1990's It is technically a miniseries, I've always just kind of treated it as one long movie since its home video release, and I think that most people do the same thing. Otherwise, people going, "Oh, did you know that it was a miniseries first?" wouldn't exist, as they wouldn't have anything to say then, right? The movie starts by setting the mood with some child murder and snarls as Pennywise is introduced to us, along with the town of Derry with some of the moodiest ambiance caught on film. Grey skies, the sound of distant storms, a growing sense of dread that can be felt in the air, and then, when we first see that red pop of color, but local law seems unconcerned by the occurrences, causing some great woe for one local, Mike Hanlon, local librarian and metaphorical lighthouse keeper to our story.
Maybe just a rash of runaways. Kids get itchy feet.
Right. A 5-year-old in a toy car gets itchy feet. What, a 7-year-old trots down to Acapulco for a wild weekend?
It is at this crime scene he finds a mysterious picture that...
A picture that shouldn't. No, that couldn't have been there.
The picture causes Mike to take action, calling up his friends, his old friends, the Losers Club. Enter Bill Denborough. Successful author and married to a Hollywood celebrity, he takes us back to that fateful day he lost his little brother to old Bob Gray dwelling in the sewer drain. We as the audience already know this little kid is toast, but we just have to sit there and watch how little Georgie meets his demise. It honestly just feels like a cat playing with a mouse before killing it. It is also here that we get our first taste of Pennywise's immortal catchphrase.
They float, Georgie. They float.
Float. Sure, that won't get old. And considering he's in a sewer, I can't help but imagine float is the term associated with floating turds. Yeah, I'm sure they'll float down there, Mr. Poopywise. But Georgie's death leads a distraught Bill to reminisce about his brother, which leads to honestly a pretty damn creepy scene involving Georgie's photograph and oozing blood. I mean, yeah, I completely agree, Bill. That is a good reaction. But the scene isn't here to just scare the pants off of us. No. It is also here to let us know that the adults don't see what is there, oblivious to the danger that surrounds their children.
Dad, listen!
I don't want you ever coming in here again, son. Do you understand?
Adult Bill realizes that he somehow forgot about this tragedy that occurred and makes haste to return to his childhood town of Derry to hear what Mike has to say. Next, we are introduced to Ben Hanscom, playboy architect, celebrity, and ladies' man. He too receives the summoning call from Mike, causing him to go through the painful act of remembering what he left behind himself. We discover that Ben was the new kid in class, and already smitten day one with fellow loser Beverly Marsh.
Well, see you tomorrow, Beverly Marsh.
But it wouldn't be a suppressed memory if we didn't have some trauma. So meet Henry Bowers and his gang of cronies, out for revenge for a self-induced punishment.
You're dead, fat boy.
But thanks to some gargantuan-sized balls on Ben, he manages to escape through the barrens of Derry, where we see that Henry is not just a dick to some, but he is a dick to all, in fact, causing Eddie Casbrack, friend of Bill and hopefully now Ben, to have an asthma attack. Giving the 2 kids time to bond and discuss death, as one does. The death of Ben's dad being the reason he finds himself in Derry living with family.
My dad died too. He was shot down in Korea.
Remember him much?
Sort of.
It is this death that Pennywise exploits in a surreal, dreamlike manifestation of his dead dad, beckoning him to join him. This is followed by meeting grown-up Beverly Marsh, fashion designer par excellence, being manipulated and oppressed by her abusive partner Tom. And to absolute sheer delight, she gets the dreaded call from Mike.
Remember me?
Cameron? Of course I remember. How are you?
Causing her absolutely gross partner to flip his shit. Thankfully, getting Bev to leave his sorry ass behind her as she makes the doomed trek down Derry memory lane. We see that Bev unfortunately comes from a home with an abusive father. He flips his shit when Bev receives some love poetry from a mysterious, strange new kid. She flees home rather to go hang out with some pre-established losers. It's here that we also meet Richie Tozier and Stan Uris.
This is Stan the man Uris. Stan is a Jew, which means he's really smart and says oil a lot.
Richie's got high metabolism and tends to make him hyperactive.
That join in on a montage of dam building down in the Barrens. Later, Beverly has her first encounter with Pennywise.
Is someone there?
Voices? What? Oh, thank God they're coming from the drain and not my head. And let's not forget the bloody balloon in the sink. The next kid to get the call is a grown-up Eddie, successful business owner. Living with his overbearing mother, he makes the journey to Derry, telling us all about that time they dunked popcorn and soda on the Bowers gang at the movies.
If I were you guys, I wouldn't pay to see a monster movie. I'd just stay home and look in the mirror.
They swing by the sewer entrance and let the audience know just how they feel about it.
That place scares me green. I think it's haunted.
Because Brooke.
Who may be just a tad too protective about the wee boy.
I don't want you to play with them anymore. No good will come of it.
But Ma, they're my friends.
You don't need any friends, Eddie, except for your own ma.
But inevitably, Eddie too soon meets up with Pennywise in the showers, alone and afraid.
This is a little inconvenient, Eddie. Just hold on while I make a few.
I need an adult. I need an adult.
I am an adult.
See you in your dreams. Oh, come back anytime.
Next, a grown-up Richie, successful comedian and Godzilla fan, as he too takes us back to his long-forgotten memory. And of course Bowers has a weekly pummeling quota to meet, and look who's in the way, it's little Richie Tozier. Causing some shenanigans to go down in the school cafeteria, Richie has to go down into the school basement, where he bumps into some sort of juvenile lycanthrope that was secretly a clown in disguise. And of course when Richie asks for help,
Somebody please. In the basement. There's a werewolf.
laughter. Except from a certain group of losers in the back. Finally, we get to see more of the man making these calls. Turns out Bowers, besides just being a bully, is also a piece of shit racist. As Mike pleads for help, the kids all stand up to the Bowers gang, leading to the 7 kids becoming absolute besties before learning a bit more about Pennywise. It's fine. We'll call it it. Anyway, they learn more about it as the pages of Mike's photo album come to life as they receive some death threats and some damn fine monologuing before finally shutting the book.
No!
Yes!
No! Stan!
Yes!
No!
Yes!
Yes! No!
Yes!
Yes! Yes!
Yes!
Damn, Stan. I know that you failed your sanity check, but damn. Accept the fact that a shape-shifting space clown is out to get you. But Bill vows to kill it, along with his friends, in order to avenge Georgie. And I guess to save the lives of all the other children of Derry. But Georgie mostly.
Honestly, Ronnie, some people have no class. Some people have janitors for parents.
Those other kids are dick. Like, really? Lastly, we see where Stan ended up as an adult. As a horny adult. As Stan shows us how the Loser Club started their preparation for taking down the clown with the help of a slingshot, some silver, and some belief. But as the kids enter the sewers, they get followed by the Bowers gang, who try to off them one by one. Fortunately for the good guys of the story, the Bowers gang gets a surprise encounter from some hungry bright lights that leave Henry with some shockingly white hair. But those hungry lights come right on back to scare the kids with fog and visions. But when Stan gets signaled out and nearly gets chomped, Eddie saves Stan with the power of belief before Beverly beans Penny's dome with a hunk of silver, causing him to flee deeper into the sewers. Now safe, the kids promise each other that if it isn't dead and if it ever comes back, they'll come back together to stop it again.
Swear to me. Swear to me that if it isn't dead, I'll come back.
Well, sadly, Stan doesn't deliver on that promise. And as Stan would rather do the big checkout rather than face it once again, he brings the group's lucky 7 count down to 6. We are finally at the halfway point of this film. Now we get to focus on the adults and their return to Derry one after another and their little brief encounters with it. Richie has quite the run-in at the local library where Pennywise treats him to some stand-up and balloons. And Eddie learns a little bit about his medical history from the past.
It's all in your head, Sonny.
Yeah, of course. I guess. With Beverly experiencing quite a blast from her past from her visit. Turns out her abusive dad died long ago, and now there's just a sweet little old lady living in her childhood. Oh my god!
I worry about you, Bevy. I worry a lot.
Well, anyways, we see Bill's wife Audra leave in order to catch a flight to Maine, as the former friends all meet up for some good food and some montages, but not before kissing some famous writer and comedian. The gang catches up and talks about their colorful past, while we discover that Henry Bowers has a late-night visitor at the asylum where he now stays.
Up here, sharp stuff.
All while the adult losers dig into some gross dessert that the actors didn't even see coming. Thankfully, the restaurant staff doesn't mind too much about the critters crawling around on their table. Soon the gang discovers about Stan's demise, and also about that time he met a mummy clown and warded it off with his knowledge of birds. But hey, why doesn't he just tell the gang himself? As he's here with us tonight, bringing doom and gloom and even some nice spooky poetry from Bill's past.
My mom gave me that to say to help with my stutter.
No offense, pal. It ain't helping.
Back at the asylum, Henry gets a visit from his old buddy Belch, who helps him escape from the asylum, in order, of course, to kill people. Followed soon by us also seeing Pennywise get a hold of Audra, as she makes her way into Derry. After much discussion on many a topic, and a lot of caressing between Ben and Bev, Mike gets a surprise stabbing from an escaped Henry, and Ben gets a surprise kiss from a thirsty clown.
Kiss me, fat boy!
Because of childhood poetry. But the furious 5 adults make their way towards the sewer in order to kill that thing they said they would kill. And along with the original hunks of silver from their first attempt, it's as if the whole gang is here together.
I don't suppose anybody thought to bring anything really useful like a machine gun.
A machine gun. Really, Richie, a machine gun. A machine gun will do shit to an eldritch old one. Use your damn head. But soon, spooky shenanigans stir up yet again, bringing up horrors from their past. Plus, we even get a little bit of lore.
Go! Now, for if you stay, you'll lose your little mind in my dead lights. Like all the others.
The heroes find their way into its lair, which is just the most quaint little door, and finds remnants of his past victims, including the now catatonic Audra. They meet face to face with it, and Eddie just fucking dies. And then they just physically proceed to kick its ass. Richie, I'm sorry. Maybe a machine gun would have been really helpful here then. I mean, heck. So they thwomp it good, ripping its heart out for good measure. This releases the town from its vile grip, and allows for our heroes to live happily ever after. Their memories fading, leaving the mess nothing but a foggy dream. They each ride off into the sunset. Audra even making a full recovery after nearly getting killed in traffic.
Yes.
Aw, isn't that nice? And of course, credits roll as we hear the cackle of Pennywise. Now, holy moly, this is actually a lot of plot to cover, but I mean, it's 2 movies in one. Anyways, now as for the actors, when dealing with movies starring kids, I think the whole bunch does a fairly decent job. Of course, people are still aware of Seth Green, you know, that werewolf kid from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and also a couple of other small roles. But most of the kids have a fair amount of acting gigs on their resumes. Some quite recent things even, and some quite tragic. The adult versions of the kids are played by actors that have very little to do with horror, a deliberate choice to try and gain more casual viewers. But if you're anything like me, maybe you recognize Richard Masur as Clark from John Carpenter's The Thing. And maybe you even recognize Olivia Hussey as Norman Bates' mom in Psycho 4.
She'd be sweet one moment, and then she'd suddenly turn mean.
A great prequel that is really worth looking into one of these days. But of course, we have to give special mention to Tim Curry and his jubilant performance. Tim is no stranger to roles that are a bit strange.
Space!
And he was already quite known for his roles in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
How about that?
And the film adaptation of the board game Clue.
I'm not shouting! All right, I am. I'm shouting!
Cluedo, where I'm from. Tim would reportedly keep distance between himself and the child actors in order for them to really get scared by him, chain smoking all the way. The effects are all well executed. You'll often hear people complaining about the artificial rain, or the stop-motion acrobatics, or the stretching bathroom drain, things looking sloppy by today's standards. In this case, I don't really agree. People love ragging on the giant spider that is Pennywise's true form, but I absolutely dig it. To me, it looks like something that Rob Bottin and Chris Wallace would have made if they worked together. And sure, this had a fairly good budget for a made-for-TV movie, but I think it was all pretty well executed. With an extra floaty shout-out going to Richie's Balloon Bash, which still gives me giggles to this day when I see the extras get their little jostles and frights from the balloon pops. But hey, I get it. I also startle hella easily. Effects were handled by Fantasy 2, and some old hands from the visual effects of Pet Sematary and Fright Night 2. Even people who worked on Tim's makeup from Legend. The screenwriting was handled primarily by Lawrence Cohen, who is mostly known for adapting King's other work, Carrie, The Tommyknockers, and Carrie again. Rewrites and general screenplay fixing was done by Tommy Lee Wallace, who also directed it. Wallace is probably best known as the director of the second best Halloween film, Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, also known as the sadly abandoned concept of the Halloween franchise.
Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, the night no one comes home.
But this is just a topic for another day. The big overall thing I want you to take away from this is that this is still a piece of television and film history that is really worth checking out. If you have young people in your life that are just getting into horror, this would be great to show them. If you enjoy dark fantasy about Lovecraftian gods that mentally screw with people, take a couple of hours, grab some popcorn and soda, and watch, or heck rewatch Stephen King's It, despite what people say about the ending. And if we absolutely have to compare 1990 It to 2017 and 2019 It, it's a package deal, folks. No half comparisons here at Beyond Normal. Both halves of it versus both halves of it. What the original has, what the remake lacks, is consistency across the two halves. Sure, the original plays out like a TV drama with hammy dialogue. And hey, remember, that's just what it was meant to be, plus a creepy clown. But at least it doesn't feel like I walked into the Goosebumps screening down the hall when I thought I was gonna watch the second half to a story I started watching 2 years ago. At least the people back in 1990 only had to wait one day for the rest of their story. Now, as for our It counter. Well, you look at that. If that thing's off or if I miscounted, well, I don't really care. Goodbye, folks. See ya in your dreams.